really quick. And then, Michael, are you with WSP?
I am, yeah. Okay. I'll be speaking a lot, as well as Francois Kinty for WSP as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, well, sure. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. I do apologize, gentlemen, and our last delegate, which is Northern Hunting Rescue. We'll just try to keep this presentation to between 10 and 15 minutes. That way we just in essence of time. So I will pass the floor to you, gentlemen, and it's all yours. Yeah, go ahead, gentlemen.
Okay, hello guys. I'm Jerome Lambert from Lambert Peat Moss Company, and I'm with my brother Francois. And Michael is back, and I believe Francois Guettet is not here yet, but
he is here. His mic is he's having some issues with his mic. He can hear us though.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you tonight. Lambert Peat Moss is a family-owned company, and Francois and I are the fourth generation of the peat moss producer in our family. Our main office is here in Bourg, is located in Rivière-Ouelle, Quebec, and we also have several peat operations all over the Quebec province. Our market is the horticulture business, and we deserve this industry worldwide. Our product is delivered by truck for the American market and by container for Central America and overseas. We load the container in our distribution center, South Shore of Montreal, and we ship by boat through the port of Montreal. Over the years, several of our customers are asking us to serve them from coast to coast, and they are asking us to be more competitive on the Western market, but freight has always been an issue for us. This is the reason why we are motivated to start an operation in Saskatchewan. So now I will let Francois and Michael from WSP, our engineering firm who conduct the studies, who will tell you more about the technical project. And after that, if you have any specific question for us or for them, just feel free to ask, and we'll try to answer for you the best we can.
Great, thanks, Francois. I know Francois Kinty is, unfortunately, his microphone is not working, so I will speak on behalf of WSP. I just want to thank you all for taking the time this evening to listen to us, and I know that our time is short and our presentation is extremely long, so I will address, I think the best way to go through this is, you have a presentation, you can read the information in there. I'll introduce a high level of the project itself, and maybe some updates on where our project is at in terms of the studies that have done, the consultation and engagement that we have conducted, and as well as our communications with the Ministry of Environment in Saskatchewan. So you all are aware of the locations of the peat bogs, and if there are particular questions on the workings of a peat bog and peat moss operations, maybe we can save those to the end, and hopefully Francois Kinty's microphone will work, but if not, the Lambert brothers can definitely speak to that. The major aspects of this project are the clusters that have been identified around the Lac La Roche region. So there are 4 clusters. These are the peat moss harvest areas. They're all within 65 kilometers of the La Roche area. total project footprint is approximately 2,500 hectares, and the total anticipated development area is about 1,800 hectares of that. And one of the key things to remember with all this is that the development and the, I guess, harvesting of these clusters will not all be happening at the same time. This is a staged development where some clusters will be essentially in operation while others are restoring, and that's a key thing that I think we really want to get across in this this presentation, is that active restoration and minimizing the impact on not just the land, but the use of the land for the community as well. That's something that we're really cognizant about, and you know, we do understand that there's opportunities to talk to the communities to find out how they use the land, and those discussions. I'll get to the consultation component in a bit, but you know, we do want to work together with the community to understand the use of the land so that we can stage the production of these accordingly. So just a brief overview of the environmental assessment process. You know, we've applied to the Ministry of Environment for our initial permits and the pre-construction permits. We self-declared this project as a development under the Environmental Assessment Act. Our terms of reference were by the ministry. This is what has allowed us to go through with our studies. And so over the past year or two, we've conducted field surveys and modeling within the communities and within the project area. We've conducted our baseline monitoring, and our baseline reports have only recently been completed, as well as the draft environmental assessment looking at the effects, what we call our effects assessment, that we have recently completed that. All that is to say that we have done a lot of the scientific work, we have done the modeling and the biological work. What's lacking is the socioeconomic component and the opportunity to consult and engage with the communities. And we fully understand that is not just a component of this project, it's a critical and key component to the success of this project. The unfortunate part is that in the timing that was originally scheduled for that component, COVID completely derailed all of these discussions. You know, being able to meet in the community and have Francois and Jerome actually, you know, come and meet with people, meet with the identified stakeholders and First Nations and Métis groups. You know, obviously that wasn't able to happen over the past year and a half. And so we have only recently kind of developed or at least come to an understanding with many of these groups in terms of how we can proceed with talking. Many of the groups still would prefer to meet in person, so we are respecting those requests to meet in person and are waiting for that appropriate time. Others, we have started conversations via Zoom or Teams or Skype like this to start those discussions on what is important to the communities. So I'll kind of wrap that up by saying that we understand that there's been a lot of negative press about this project. I, as kind of the project manager for the environmental effects assessment, I do want to say that I think there is substantially more information that can and should be provided to the community as information. We're coming from behind the gun here in terms of trying to get that information out, being stalled with our engagement plans through COVID. But we are really looking forward to hopefully getting those opportunities to discuss not only the findings that we had during our baseline studies and our effects assessments, but also what's important to the community so that we can make those accommodations, we can make those necessary changes, and come to an appropriate an appropriate project design that works for everybody. Obviously, Lambert, they need to have a viable economic product, and you know, so there's particular areas that are more economically viable for them. They're a better product, and so we as WSP, the consultants, we respect that they have a product that they need to produce, but we also respect the communities and the way that they use the land, the way that they interact with the area, and our primary focus at this point is to just conduct consultation and have discussions on how we come together. So that is an extremely shortened version of our presentation. Hopefully those who have had a chance to look at it, and I think it's probably more important to have those discussions and answer questions at this point.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen, and thanks you for bringing us to where the timeline is. I think that's probably the most important thing, because we've already been, we've had some other groups come in and give us presentations, and it's hard for us to support on multiple different levels if we don't know even who you are or what you're doing or what the plan is. So I do appreciate that. At this time, I'm going to open up the floor for questions. If any councillors have any questions go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the Lambert family entertaining the thought of bringing some an economic stimulus to the community of Larage, and appreciate the time and effort that you put into things so far. My question is, from an economic perspective, obviously, how long have you been at this? Like a year and a half, 2 years? Does it seem viable? I got two questions. Does it seem viable? Like, obviously, you spent invested a lot of time and money. So this is a good-looking product, then, or what? Here in Saskatchewan?
Well, thing is, we looked at different areas where we could find enough acreage and quality product, where we can find also different access to it and possibilities to be a viable project, and we ended up in choosing land not too far from where you are, and we believe that we can build a viable and interesting and bring diversification of your economy at our level in your area. And I mean, horticultural product, it's a product that is there every year. There is not up and down. I mean, every year we feed people, and we need to supply them with substrates to grow plants and trees, and you know, we are at the very beginning of the chain food, and for sure, if we decided to conduct the studies and put all the money in the engineering of this project, it's because we believe in it, and we think it's viable, and we would be glad to be able to be part of your economy and do our best to diversify and be part of your communities, and everywhere we have a hub and a bug and an operation, we are always part of the communities, and we participate to the economy of the place where we are at our level. And it's, I don't know if it answers your question, but I mean,
No, that's close. Which rolls into my next question, because you talk of employing up to 25 people. So can you really quick, in the sense, what type of labor force are we looking at? Laborers, equipment operators? Just you rolled into sorry, just 1 second. You rolled into our community, and with I see it being a very viable operation. So what we have to do is put it out to our community that this is what we're looking at for labor force. So can you explain that end of it then? Because a lot of the people within our mining sectors, they can't get into those mining positions a lot of times. So again, sorry, I'll give you the floor now. Explain as to what type of labor personnel you'd be looking at.
Okay. So you are familiar with the in the prairies with the farming, you know. You can compare harvesting of peat moss with farming, but all summer long. Okay. It's pretty much like farming, driving tractor, front-end loader, and truck. Okay, but all summer long. It's not just like doing the work in the spring and at the end of the summer. It's all summer long. Peat moss, once the bog is open and ready to be harvested. Every day you need to harrow, depending on the sun and the wind and the rain. You need to harrow and then harvest with the vacuum harvesting. Everything, all of that is a tractor operator. And then you need a front-end loader to be able to build the pile of peat moss and load the pile of peat moss in through the walking floor, to bring them to the facilities. So pretty much it's like for the field job, they are like farming type of job. But as I said, it's all summer long, okay? And then you bring that into a factory. Factory needs to be close to a place where there's enough trucking to get the product out of the area. So you need to have an agglomeration of people. We are like backhaul. People, trucks are coming into town to deliver grocery, and then they bring back our product. We deliver by truckloads. So factory jobs or operator for again forklift operator, front-end loader operator. In the factory, we need the mechanician. We need an operator for stationary compaction, the process, screening process. A guy to operate the screener. So basically, it's manufacturing. Pretty much like in the wood industry, I would say, but it's more like a commodity product.
Sorry, I'm just gonna jump in here really quick. So I think just to get a clear answer to that question is, how many local people will you hire for those positions? Because I think that we generally understand what you're going with as far as who you're what you need hired for that. How many local people are you going to be able to supply to your projects?
Overall, we're talking about a project about 40 people.
That you're going to be able to hire specifically local to?
In the local field, it's about 25, 30 people, and in factory, it's maybe 10, 15 people.
Okay.
More or less.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my question was, where will the processing take place?
The what?
The processing of the products.
Probably it would need to be not too far away from Prince Albert or something like that, because you need to have access to truck to get your product out of the area.
You wouldn't set it up in Laurent?
I believe the closest city from where you are is Prince Albert, where you have a good trucking volume.
Or back home. Yeah. I just to add to that, and Francois or Jerome can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that location has been determined quite yet. We have conducted our socioeconomic analysis. It is part of our environmental impact statement draft. And those are the things that we have looked at as opportunities for for where that should and could be.
I think if you're asking for our support, I think if you said La Ronge was going to be where it's going to happen, certainly would get my support. You know, because it's our product, and to have somebody else benefit from it, Prince Albert are going to benefit of jobs and other things, economic opportunities when it's the products around our community, and we should be the ones seeing the benefits to it.
Overall, there will be more job in the field than in the factory, I would say. It's a 2/3 and 1/3.
Councillor Bashara, and then I'll continue.
Thank you. I have actually kind of three questions. One's going to pick up from Councillor Hordisky here. So you need a processing facility. So what do we need to do to have that facility placed here in La Ronge if this project moves ahead? Which you don't have to answer at this moment, but these other questions are kind of similar. I'm wondering, where is there an example of a successful restoration that we can see with our own eyes, or a community that we can talk to that shows an example of what 50 years down the road, 30 years down the road, what are we looking at? What does this look like? How is the reclamation actually completed? Is there proof that the reclamation actually happens and the restoration, and the long-term impacts can be seen, because I understand, you know, there's a Northern Saskatchewan's not great for following up with resource extraction and reclamation. Companies often fall off, and I appreciate that you're a 4th-generation company, so you do have some length in your business, which can be good, but again, there's a lot of skepticism, I think, in the region, because there is a history of companies coming in, extracting resources, and leaving a bit of a mess for the taxpayers to clean up, or just nobody takes responsibility. And then, again, talking about contributions, there's likely going to be significant truck traffic if an operation was to locate up here. And we have one highway that connects our community to the south. And when it comes to that, what is the province requiring for contribution to the highway that ensures, like, it's hard enough to keep that highway in a state of repair, let alone putting, you know, an extra 50 trucks a day or whatever it might be along that highway. So what contribution is being made in that respect? So sorry for the 10,000 questions, but I saw you taking some notes.
That's great, and thank you for those questions. I think to quickly answer your first one, which is a lead on from the previous question, is that, you know, those questions are part of the consultation engagement process right now. We do want to hear that, you know, whether or not there is an appetite for those parts of the project to be in the community, so that we can look at opportunities to, you know, further look at and design those opportunities. Maybe we have to look for additional land. Obviously, the main concerns are the transportation component and the increased transportation impacts if we were to locate in the community. So those are all parts of the studies that need to be completed now in order to determine maybe what the next steps are. Yes, you're right. It kind of does lead into your third question, which is if we were to locate in La Ronge area, there would be increased traffic. What are the mitigation measures that we would have to implement at that point? Maybe there is some road widening that would need to be measured. So I wouldn't take those off the table right now. You know, those are absolutely parts of the discussion of planning and designing for this project. And, you know, hearing from your community, the importance of that is an important part of this as well. For your second question, I think Francois Kenty's microphone is working now. So this is the specific question for Francois. He is he literally wrote the book on peat bog restoration.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Yeah, okay. The Canadian peat industry has been investing in developing a restoration approach for the harvested peat bog for almost 30 years. And although it was developed in Eastern Canada at first, in New Brunswick and Quebec, the research is moved rapidly to the west, and now there's hundreds of hectares, if not 1,000 hectares, that have been restored coast to coast in Canada by the peat industry. And the closest to, there are some in Saskatchewan that I actually visited some years ago in eastern Saskatchewan, close to Carrot River, from a Premier Tech operation. But there's also a peat land that has been restored in Alberta and by other companies, and in Manitoba as well. And this restoration approach is proved to be pretty robust, and it's been applied all over Canada and the United States too, in Minnesota, for example, and it's been adapted to specific local conditions. And beside restoration, there's also other option when the regulation allows it, but it's possible to plant trees or depend on what the community wants, grow some berries and these kind of things.
If I can add to that, I know we Lambert and WSP, in one of our meetings with some of the community members, we recommended, and there was a great appetite for connecting the people of the Laurent community with some of the communities, perhaps in Quebec, where these projects have been going for many years. You know, the Lambert brothers are the 4th generation, and some of the projects that have been going for generations already. Perhaps providing those connections can help to, discuss, how after many years of operation, how they work with the community, and how the restoration has gone by. Because I think what I'm hearing is the concern is that a product will come in here, they'll last a couple of years and then leave. But what we see from the Lambert company is that it's a generational commitment, and they're here to to not just do a product, but to become part of the community.
Thank you, Councillor.
And one last word about restoration. I don't want to go into a scientific aspect of it, but all the restoration is backed by several scientists so academics from the universities, and everything has been monitored and it's been demonstrated with scientific papers for a while that the ecosystem, the peatland ecosystem, can return within 10 to 20 years, and it's returned as a functioning ecosystem. So it restarts storing carbon and filtering water and everything. Vegetation's back and.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, I have a couple questions, so you'll have to hear me out. Okay, so the first one is, other than the few jobs that will be made available, do you have plans to train a skilled workforce? Because at times we struggle filling positions with skilled employees, is the first part of my question. The second part is, what other tangible benefits will there be to residents of the La Ronge and area, tri-community and outlying communities? And the third part is, there's currently a petition to stop the Lambert Peat Moss project where 20,146 people have signed from the La Ronge area and beyond. What would you say to the people that have signed the petition in terms of maybe persuading them to not be opposed to the project, if anything?
Jean-Francois, do you want to answer the first about skilled labor, potential skilled labor? I mean, I can address that in that I think one of the key things that we just reiterated is that this is a multi-generational project, and so I think training skilled labor really helps. I think there's opportunities for mentorship, there's opportunities for apprenticeship, so that there is skilled labor that continually rolls through those generations. Obviously, Francois and Jerome,
To give you an example, we have several people that works for here. It's a family affair. I mean, the father works in here and the son works in here, and we train them, and they start as a student, and sometimes they continue, and we train them. Most of the people we hire, we train them, and there's not necessarily a specific class or PETMOS. It's not something necessarily that we're gonna learn to school. So we teach our employees to work with the machinery, and in a manner they're gonna harvest and do the operation as we wish they will do, and it's a specific field of activities, and to do so we need to teach them, and lots of people just have abilities, and the groundwork would be welcome to work with us.
And I think for your second question, the additional community benefits, I think there is an opportunity to brainstorm with the community, first of all, as part of our consultation engagement process. But off the top of my head, there's Lambert sponsors various events, dog sled races in Quebec. So providing opportunity for community events, for community growth, or gatherings. I think that's something that they've exhibited that they're really proud to do. I think there are other partnerships that may filter out from the project as well, which could be, obviously shipping is going to need to be a part of it. If there's an opportunity, to partner with a local shipping company, truck drivers, there are extended requirements to get the product out that I think could be looked at. I think I don't have a specific number or list of things, but I think those are things that we want to discuss with the community to see where we can, come to agreements. And to address your third question, I think this is really important to get the message across that that is a substantial amount of people who have signed this petition, and I believe that they have signed this petition with very limited information about the project, the impacts of the project, and more importantly, the proposed mitigation measures to limit those impacts. Lambert does not want any impacts to the environment. The whole point of us doing a substantial amount of studies, and Lambert has, they've paid for a lot of studies in order to determine the effects and valued components that are within this area so that those can be mitigated. And all that is to say that we've come to this part now where we need to discuss with the community what's important with them, how we can make things work, where we can accommodate. Do we need some boundaries? Do we need to provide access? Do we need to do things that alleviate the impacts that the community is feeling, the negative feelings that they have? We haven't had that opportunity to discuss with them, and I think that is probably the biggest hurdle that we do have to jump through, is to get the information out that there is a lot of positive benefits. There is a lot of opportunity to mitigate the perceived negative benefits as well.
Thanks, Michael. I'm gonna open it up to the last two councillors, just in case they have questions, just because in essence of time, I feel like this is not the last time we're gonna get the opportunity to speak with you. So we'll sort of leave that, but I'll pass it to Councillor McPhail, last next question, and then if you have anything, Councillor Vedri.
I've got one important question.
Yeah, just one sec. Let's get these two, because they haven't had the floor yet, okay? And then we'll come back.
Short question.
Sure. Okay, let's go, Councillor McPhail.
So I do pick up an accent, so I did want to say salut, je m'appelle Jordan. And for your time today, I want to say merci.
Merci.
I would like to preface all of my questions with saying that I'm truly trying to find out information. If any of them come off as attacking in nature, I don't intend it to be. I'm just trying to understand as a local elected official and seeing what our residents are saying in the regional community. I would like to have some answers to try and formulate some ideas of what we can do moving forward. You know, part of what we've done recently in the town of La Ronge is we've worked through, you know, a strategic plan, a mission and whatnot, and part of our mission is we're going to deliver sustainable growth that provides residents, visitors, and investors with value-added municipal services that support our regional community, economy, and industry partners in a progressive and transparent way. And we hope that anyone that wants to do business with us wants to do it in the same spirit. That we see, you know, the regional partners all consulted and the process of building these as you're calling, multi-generational projects in a progressive and transparent way. Which brings me to a couple of questions that I have surrounding the duty to consult. In your presentation that you provided us here today, it says the government of Saskatchewan will consult with and accommodate as appropriate First Nations and rights-bearing Métis communities in advance of decisions or actions that may adversely impact treaty or Aboriginal rights. The duty to consult lies with the province. The government of Saskatchewan delegated procedural aspects of the duty to consult to Lambert Peat Moss Project Incorporated. My one question surrounding the duty to consult is what aspects of that procedure has been delegated to Lambert and what remains with the province? And secondly, how far along the duty to consult of those aspects that have been delegated to your company specifically have been done? And I guess more of an opinion from the company side, I do see that when we've had industry in northern Saskatchewan, we have seen a lot of these areas where we know and understand that most of northern Saskatchewan is a resource-based economy, and we are seeing that in a lot of places where resource extraction, exploration, or processing, mining, and harvesting, we do see that a lot of the consultation processes typically fails when it comes to making sure that the First Nations and local Métis and Indigenous leaders have been consulted prior to this kind of getting to the media. And as you said, a lot of the issues that you've seen in the petitions and the information that has gone out, you think could be alleviated. So to me, that sounds like the trigger process is not early enough in the project to be able to battle some of those that information that might be around. And the last, like I said, the last part is just more so of an opinion from you guys on that duty to consult. Is there some things that you can see maybe that if we have some people from the province tuning into our council meeting tonight, if there's some things that they might consider in their processes to make sure that in future, when industry does want to invest in northern Saskatchewan, that they can do that in a progressive and transparent way?
No, thank you. That's an excellent question. So, I think to start, maybe the ministry has a duty to consult. They essentially disclose that duty to Lambert. So the ministry provided the assignment of procedural aspects to Lambert in January of 2019. In that assignment of procedural aspects of the duty to consult, they lay out the nations, the indigenous nations that need to be consulted, the Métis nations that need to be, Métis locals that need to be consulted, as well as specific lists on the requirements of what is the responsibility for Lambert. I can probably provide that list to you. That is public knowledge. But essentially everything within there, including the costs associated, falls to Lambert. In terms of the timeline of how that happened, that was issued in January 2019. A great deal of effort was kind of conducted over the course of 2019 to prepare plans, to prepare an engagement consultation plan, to essentially do a lot of the background information and preparing opportunities to fully conduct the engagement processes up until 2020, at which point some aspects were completed, and then everything. I don't want to blame COVID for everything, but it was a substantial hurdle in the opportunity that we had to conduct our engagement. So since that time, I would say we have attempted contact with every group that we have been required to consult with. We have set up meetings that have fallen through. We have, I want to say, come to agreements with some that in-person meetings are the only way that they will meet with us. That being said, we have eventually, kind of December into January and into this year, we have had substantial, very successful meetings with the Peter Valentine Cree Nation, with the Montreal Lake Cree Nation, and as well discussions with various other community members and stakeholders. I'm just rambling now. Sorry if I've gone off topic. I do understand that the duty to consult is probably the biggest hurdle that we need to get through in terms to turning the tide of the public opinion on us. The willingness and effort from the mayor's side is completely here. Finding those opportunities to meaningfully engage with the community has been the hurdle. We are coming through those with, I want to say, creative opportunities to meet with individuals, to meet with groups, but we understand that there's a substantial amount of work yet to go.
Answer all your questions?
So no, that's fine. So is it, just as a follow-up then, would it be fair to say that the duty to consult is just starting and you haven't considered yourself finished on your duty to consult with the Indigenous and traditional land users in that area?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think we've had serious discussions with the ministry in terms of how we can work with them to help us in this situation. Being that, Jerome and Francois would love to come out, come out for a week, come out for 2 weeks, set up meetings with everybody. They can't right now. How do we work around these scenarios? We have a list of all the activities that we must conduct, and we are not through those activities. And I think, while I mentioned that we have our scientific and technical data, that technical data is not complete without completing our duty to consult. We can't assess the valued components of something without understanding the traditional ecological value to some of these things. So our scientific reports are not complete without the tradition and the community's inputs to those. So the duty to consult is ongoing.
Thank you. Merci.
Councillor Bedard, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation tonight. My concerns are, for example, some of the members of our community, the stakeholders, they have track lines, possible track lines within the area. Some of the medicines that the community uses come from those areas. And then same with the wildlife as well, that are inhabiting that area. How will it affect them? And my big last concern is we've seen throughout the years the resources being pulled out of the community, and when it's done, it's done, and we're pretty much left with no jobs, and we're still in the same state. So those are big concerns for me, and I'm kind of wondering if you have anything to address those concerns.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'll try and be quick in my response here. I think for the first ones, the initial sighting of these clusters, as they're called, the impacts on wildlife, on traditional land use on the trap lines, those were all initially considered in the siting of these. The clusters were specifically cited to avoid any woodland caribou habitat. So all of our clusters are within Tier 3 woodland caribou habitat, which is essentially least risk areas. And the purpose of the baseline studies, the wildlife baseline studies, and the effects assessment was to understand the potential impacts on the wildlife. Field studies, biologists were in the field for months collecting data, and the purpose of those would be to come back, readjust boundaries, adjust the project dimensions as needed to minimize the impacts. And the same goes for the traditional medicines. We don't have that information yet. That is part of the consultation that we want to conduct to find out where those where things are located, where there are significant areas to avoid, so that we can make those adjustments and accommodations. When you talk about trap lines, I think one of the key things that Jerome and Francois have indicated is that this is essentially a summer project, this summer work. Trap lines that will be traditionally in the winter, access, there should be no barring of access, or we can work with the community to ensure access. So there's opportunities to accommodate, I think, in all these these project decisions, and we want to work with the community to ensure that the project decisions are being made to benefit everyone. In terms of your last question, I can let Francois and Jerome answer that, or we.
I would say that, as I said before, PFOS is year after year, and we're working on a project for several years. So the idea is not to go there for 2 years and get out of there. It's to establish ourselves to be part of the community for many years, and be there year after year where you can rely on us and we can rely on you. So that's why there's a long timeline for this project. It's to be able to establish something where we develop a project where it's reliable for you to get count on, and that's why we go through all those years. It's because we establish ourselves where we can rely on the product and labor force, and we have a good market that relies on us to be able to supply them with our product year after year.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll just end with one more question from Councillor Hudisky, and then we'll close up.
I noticed in your presentation that you do a fair bit of corporate contributions in Quebec. Now, is this something that we could look forward to happening here as well? We just recently got awarded a long-term care facility. The community's got to raise $3 million as our contribution to furnish it. Is that something that you, as a corporation, would be interested in contributing to? Is that something you don't do?
Everywhere we are proud to support community organization, foundation, association in different regions through donations, sponsorship, or product. It helps to make a difference while encouraging voluntary involvement. To our contribution, we wish to encourage and enhance the importance of developing the community and action and associative life. Lambert is a family business, and they act as a family into a community.
But it's something that benefits the whole region, and that's why I'm throwing it out there. But it's something to think about anyway.
Excellent. Okay, thank you guys. I know there was a lot of questions there, and I'm sure that there's going to be future consultations as you guys have sort of outlined. So thank you very much for your time, and really appreciate the presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't give up. Push on. We need some more consultation. Need your boots on the ground out there after COVID.
Okay,
we do want to meet again, so if you can reschedule us, we would love to come back.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, we move
Bye.
on. We move on to Northern Animal Rescue with John Dixon and Melissa McLean. Are you guys on the line? And I apologize for the delay.
We've been around the community for a long time.
Joanne, Melissa, are you guys on the line? Okay.
I see a dog there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Joanne's. Gotta unmute yourself, guys. Speak.
Joanne, Melissa, if you're there, I know that we do see somebody there, but you're on mute, so you'll need to unmute yourself if you are there. Maybe you got tired because we went on a little too long. Pat, are you on the line today?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, just wasn't sure if you were, just because we'll come to you as soon as Nara's done. I think it's fine. Let's see,
Make sure you,
Hey,
make sure.
you gotta make sure too.
Thank you. Like your hair.
Hey,
Any luck?
no, they're on, but, yeah.
Well, let's jump ahead to the next one and go
Okay.
back, maybe?
Sounds good. All right, Pat, we're gonna come to you for reports from administration regarding reinstating utility interest and disconnects. Melissa and Joanne, if you guys do come on the line, just let us know and then we'll try to jump back when we can. So you have the floor, Pat.
Okay, well, previous council had canceled utility interest and disconnects because of COVID. It's a year later now, and we're finding that we have several accounts that are getting into excess, I would consider. And so the question before council today is, can we have approval to start charging interest and disconnecting water services for residents who are in arrears greater than $500 and resume charging interest July the 1st? We found that COVID exemption really impacted our financial picture.
Yep, go ahead.
I've got fairly good experience in this too. I mean, other municipalities have long since reinstated it, and what they have found is the brief period that was needed was helped. The vast majority are the ones that are causing the issues beforehand are still causing the issues today. And so when we looked at the numbers, there was a small cost, but it's traditionally the recurring customers that were there pre-COVID are still there. The few months that were needed helped out, but those people are starting to see things come back. So everything has gone back to charging interest from my knowledge in municipalities. So this is what we're asking for tonight, is reinstate that practice again.
Does council have any questions?
I have a question around that. Pat and Steve, so if there were a client that was having problems paying and catching up, would there be a payment plan for them that could be negotiated to ease the financial burden?
Yeah, as long as there's skin in the game, they make a commitment to start working towards that balance. I mean, I've had people that try to avoid paying for 3-4 months at a time, but as long as there's a continual commitment to work towards paying it off, I mean, I've never in my career cut anybody off. Right? I mean, that being said, you can't have it paid off over 18 months. It's got to be a realistic timeline. But I mean, it's on a situational by situational basis, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
No question, just
No questions, just a statement. I mean, no one expected COVID to last as long as it has, and it's time that it's putting us into a financial situation. I don't know, we don't necessarily make a motion, but I'll support the recommendation for us to move on, and let's start collecting.
Well, yeah, if I can continue on that, I know that, you know, the previous council put this in place because we knew that a lot of people were going through hard financial times at the time with an extreme lockdown in the province happening at that point, and we wanted to make sure that, you know, the effective measure to tackling COVID at that time, according to public health orders, was to keep your hands clean, and that was, you know, what we kind of said is, you know, we didn't want you to have your water disconnected and not being able to keep yourself in good hygienic practices during a pandemic. And, you know, in our report here tonight, we do see that this has saved some of the residents here roughly about $12,000. So, you know, if it was the idea that we were trying to make sure that, you know, people that were in those situations could have access to that, I think we've succeeded in that plan, and I think going forward we need to get back on track with getting our community back to where we were pre-COVID, and I would also support the administrative recommendation.
I guess my concern would be, like, I mean, it was a useful policy, but, you know, it's put the people in a position where they now owe $500. I mean, it's not going to be writing it off. Even if we wrote the interest off, we put them in a position where they are paying more money. So I think we just have to reverse
Mr. Mayor, I looked at the receivables and I asked the staff, and a large portion of the people that are still in arrears are pre-existing issues, pre-COVID, that were in that position. Like, from my experience, 89% of people that were in problems pre-COVID are still on the list today, right? I mean, as long as there's continual commitments to start making payments, I really have a hard time cutting people off, right? The moment they don't pay bills for 3-4 months, my response is, we have to pay our people, we need the money, right? It's not fair to anybody else. If everybody pays their bills on time, you need to pay it on time. So that was my concern as well, but a lot of it is just, it was pre-existing customers pre-COVID. So there are probably a few on there, like I said, that are the result of COVID, but the vast majority are pre-existing.
Okay. Councilor Veteran and Bashari, you guys sort of in support of that, or?
I'm good, and I'm in support of reinstating and doing disconnects if we have to.
Okay, excellent. So I think that we have a consensus on this report. So thank you, Pat. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Okay, Joanne, I see that you're there, so thank you for joining us. Is Melissa here as well? Joanne, can you hear me? Maybe not.
Maybe get somebody in the chat to just, we can hear her.
Joanne, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Can you?
No, I can't hear anything, actually. Hi. No, I can't hear.
Maybe it's turn the volume off the computer.
Nothing.
On their computer. If she can hear, if everybody else has been able to hear us, we haven't changed anything.
Okay. So, I'm not sure, like I have my video, I have my microphone on. I'm not sure, I can't hear anybody.
We can hear you.
Vanessa, we can hear her, but maybe it's her volume needs to be on, or?
She's having technical troubles. Let's keep moving on.
Okay.
She's having issues with her speakers.
Okay, sounds good.
Vanessa's on the phone with her right now.
Okay, excellent.
All right, I had it off the whole time prior.
We're gonna need to mute her though.
We can mute the TV.
Oh, we can.
Okay. Yeah, there.
All right, so
Okay.
we're moving on to the professional development. Pat, if you don't mind speaking on this as well?
Pat, maybe she can't hear us now. You're muted.
Oh, we
Oh,
can't hear
Pat.
We can
You know what, I can speak to it if you want, council, just keep things moving.
Postpone it till the next meeting.
Sorry, say that again?
Still talking to
I was
them.
talking to Joanne.
Oh, I thought that was,
Yeah,
I
would you like me to look out there?
thought it was Pat.
Here, I can
Okay.
speak to it, council,
Sure.
just keep things moving.
Yep.
This is just as a result of the last discussion we had with Councillor on the Economic Development Coordinator. One of our staff came forward and interested in pursuing just further skills involved in her local government knowledge, and she's expressed an interest in taking the local government certificate. This is strictly just proving the skill set of staff. She wants to take one class this year, which is $900, and just kind of moving it forward. And we would sign a return of service, so if the town were to put any investment in, we would get, and she takes off within that time frame, she has to pay it back. Yeah, it's good to develop the staff, especially this individual. She's actually, since I worked with her, I found her to be very sharp. And I think these courses would actually help her improve her skill set a bit more, and also add some knowledge and increased abilities to provide service. So, and I do plan on bringing a policy back for this stuff into the future. Just right now, we have no policy on this.
Yahoo! I appreciate staff showing interest in moving ahead in the organization, and I am fully in support, especially with the return service agreement. I think that succession planning is incredibly important so the town doesn't get into a situation where we are going through an extended headhunting experience, and if anything ever happens and there is another, potentially, eventually, an assistant administrator in that sense that can take over in that capacity if something were to happen to the administrator. I'm fully in support of this, especially for staff members that have committed so much to the organization and are asking for a continued relationship in that respect. So.
Thank you.
My question is, following the certification 1 to 2 years, I think that should be solidified at 2 years. I am in agreement with this, by the way. I also think that maybe for next year's budget, we need to earmark a staff professional development bursary or type of program so that staff can access additional training, because there may be more staff interested in advancing their skill set. So I think that would be equitable.
100%.
I'm good, I'm in support of it.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions or concerns?
The only question that I have is, I believe when we did the revision of our personnel policy that we had specific language surrounding professional development. And I believe this falls within the policy already as under 1,000, I think is what we kind of said, that it didn't have to go to council. Maybe if it's, you know, to the 4,800 where it's kind of getting to that threshold. I'm just, that was my only question, is just from a procedural standpoint, like, I'm not sure if, maybe because it's not within the scope of duties of each of the current position, but rather future plans, I have no problem, you know, building our employees up to take on higher roles in our organization. And yeah, I would support it going forward.
Yeah, if I can, Mr. Mayor, just quickly, we did look at the policy, and the definitions is kind of very narrow. And typically a municipality has a training development, so when it's over certain thresholds, it has to come back to council. When it's under certain thresholds, define what we need for return of service and all that. And we do have it drafted, it just, I don't overwhelm council with a bunch of policies in the first 3 months here. It's crafted, it's ready to go. And Alison and I looked at that when we did the original one previous, and it needs a little bit of clarity in that policy provided. It'll come back to council very shortly.
Councilor Diskey?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to identify exact cost. I mean, some programs, it's more to, you know, to get enrollment. And so, I mean, if it's some other programs are less. So I think, you know, I have to look at a policy that recognizes both.
I think for the most part, everyone's in favor of moving ahead with this, so great. Do we want to try Joanne? Joanne, can you hear us?
Sorry,
I think she's still having trouble.
Okay, all right, so we'll move on to town council state of the address. And just judging from this, do we still need to?
So I guess, if I can, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, this is just strictly following up from previous council. This is what we put together, very simple, and I'm more interested in, does the date work? If we want to push it out further, we've not done any advertising on this yet, there's no pushing out. I would just more like to get a specific date working, and then we can backdate kind of a dry run to kind of get the format going. So this is just strictly, does the date work, or should we push it further back in June? I'm open to it, this is just strictly what I'm looking for.
If it's staying virtual, I'm fine with that.
So June 9th still works for you, because if
For
we're
me,
doing that, then
yeah.
we'll start working on getting it out into the public this week.
Yeah, June 9th works for me.
June 9th works for me.
Okay, so with that, if that works for council, we'll start working towards, we have the Zoom subscription that we have through the firewall, we'll be using that, and like I said, the next step here is to, I guess, to do a dry run, so we know what we know we're doing, we do it, and then we do it on June 9th, so.
Okay.
And we'll come up with a format.
What dry run questions are we gonna do for council?
What's the rate?
What dry run questions are we
Oh.
gonna do for council?
So can we ask people to submit beforehand, maybe?
We can, yeah.
And then that way we can address them appropriately? We can say, please submit your questions by.
We can design some
noon,
questions,
we
and
can
maybe,
say, so we have-
maybe whoever could ask or whatever.
What we did with the ones that I've done previously, we've actually planted questions with certain people in, that when you were attending, they would ask, and so we got the discussion
We
going.
got it going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about the lumber?
Is there, maybe if we ask the public to maybe post some of their questions ahead of time, then we could.
Yeah.
We could.
Yeah, we can get it out there with communication, like, email.
Dry running before that.
Yeah, no, we can, I just needed a confirmation of the date, and I'll start shooting forward and try to get this set up.
And the tough ones we'll give to Vivian.
Okay.
Challenge accepted. Right? Okay, awesome.
Challenge growth.
Okay, we're gonna dial Joanne in. Councilor Shara has her number here.
Do we need to dial 9 to get out,
No,
or?
I don't believe so, just street number.
Okay.
We're probably gonna wanna have this muted then.
Hi, is that Joanne?
Yes, it is. Hi.
Hi, Joanne. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. You can hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
But I'm up Potato Lake, and sometimes we don't have very good cell coverage.
Okay. Well, we'll try to do our best here.
Sorry?
No, I said we'll try to do our best here, and we'll just ask you to repeat in case we lose you there. But the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. So, did you have any questions about the statistics that we gave you?
I don't personally, but I guess we can ask the rest of the council if they have any questions that they'd like to pass along.
I just like to ask one question. Is there a way that we can track repeat offenders?
Yes. Well, we don't actually have a way right now. We just go by memory. But because we usually recognize the dog if it's been in the pound before. But we could start something. I don't know, is there a way that we could include that in statistics, or is there a way that we could maybe report that through the phone call or the phone line that you have set up?
Like I'm thinking, like when you guys are taking in animals, if they're a repeat offender, you can mark them down as a repeat offender, and then it would just be part of the, Larange intakes or whatever, right?
Oh, for sure.
It could
Yeah,
be
we
on
can
the
do that.
next report or something, or if
For
I
sure, we
could,
could do that.
yeah, I guess something like that. I'd appreciate that, please.
Okay.
So I have a question. Joanne, it's Viviana Rees, hi.
Hi.
I noticed on your intakes for location, like I know that we contribute a financial portion to NAR is it an equitable financial contribution from all communities? Are you at liberty to share that?
Well, the other communities pay it per dog fee. The amount that you do contribute is for the animal control contract. So we actually hire somebody to do animal control for us.
Okay.
Yeah, so that has to do with the animal control contract. It's not a per dog fee.
Okay, so are we paying an additional per dog fee, or is our per dog fee included in the contract fee?
That's included in the contract. Yes. And then the roaming fees are remitted to you, to Town of Orange.
Okay, thank you.
So your contract, this Joe here.
Hi.
So your how are you doing, Joanne?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Your contract is basically with the town. The other work that you do is basically volunteer, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, first and foremost, we were founded as a humane society, so we approach everything that we do with that,
So basically.
that umbrella. So, yeah, most of the other work that we do is volunteer work.
So basically, you're reporting to us because you have a contract with us, and so when I look at the report, it basically reflects what you do in the region, which is fine, and good and useful information, but I think moving forward, I think there might be some information that would be more useful to the town, and you know, the Council Vedri pointed out one thing about, you know, repeat animals. There's also the number of licensed animals. It just, we could wordsmith a report that should be more reflective on the things that are concerned with our contract.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So we could maybe just broaden some of these statistics, but make them more specific to Town of Orange, is what you're saying?
Yes.
And add a few more statistics that are just,
So,
that have to do with the animals that we're taking in and the licenses that we're issuing and those types of things.
it's something maybe council can discuss with our administrator. Maybe he can sit down with you guys and put together a report that would be suitable for what we need for information in terms of the contract.
Oh, for sure, that makes sense.
And it could be a report on the condition of the building and all kinds of things that you know, they're relevant to, because you know, in terms of the condition of the building, that was brought forward by a councillor, and really that could have come out of your report and what the cost of those things are. And you know, so it's more of a working relationship that we need to
Okay, so this is more focused on the specific contract and what's going on as far as how we're able to better serve Town of Orange and also the facility issues or the facility improvements or requirements.
Hi Joanne, it's Abby here.
Hi.
I am wondering if, for the benefit of everybody around this table, if you could give us a general, high-level overview of what services you do provide to the town, and maybe what you don't provide, like where the limits of the contract take you, as well as your big picture goals for the organization within the context of L'Orange. Do you mind covering over that information?
Okay, all right. So, like I said before, we are first and foremost a humane society. So when we look at what we're doing in the community for animal control and animal welfare, we approach it with regards to our mission statement, our vision. So the animal control contract is part of what we do, but there are many outside of that that definitely help with controlling the numbers of animals that are roaming. So basically what our work plan is we want to continue to respond to calls about roaming dogs and impound them. So an example would be this past week we picked up 4 dogs that were roaming the town. 3 are still with us, but one was picked up by its owner. We do Facebook posts to notify the public that the animals are impounded. We also do courtesy postings for people who have lost their animals. We work really hard to reunite pets with owners, so that keeps animals off the street. Also set traps when needed when we're called upon by various citizens who are having animals come into their yard. There are nuisance animals that are roaming. So an example of that would be we trapped a couple of cats that were on Lawton Crescent. Those cats were not claimed, so they were part of our transportation and they went south. Our animal control officer does daily patrol, and she also does more frequent patrols in the areas that are considered to be the high frequency areas of roaming animals. So down to the quarry, Studer, Reef, those areas where she will do an extra run around there. Because many calls from people wanting to surrender their pets for various reasons. So our autism supports first. If there's anything we can help with their pets.
Oh, you're cutting out. I think your call's dropping.
We're losing you, Joanne.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we sort of.
Sort of? Okay. If that happens here, take a look at this stuff. So my calls will drop or people can't hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
You're back now. It's better now, yes.
Okay, so another thing that we do is we provide access to low-cost spay neuter surgery. So with the vet clinic, we subsidize many pet owners. There were over, I have the numbers down here. Since 2014, 817 animals have been fixed through the spay neuter clinic. Due to COVID, of course, so they were canceled, unfortunately, in 2020 and so far this year. But we did apply for a cancel grant, and 6 pet owners from La Ronge and 10 pets were fixed from October to January. And we also have an appointment tomorrow. Our van is heading down to Saskatoon to the vet college, and we are getting 12 pets fixed. I know for sure 2 are from La Ronge. One is a female dog whose puppies we took. So we always try to stay in contact with people whose puppies or litters we've taken so that they get on our list for low-cost spay and neuter. There are many other things that we do as far as just providing support for people. We do have basic first aid medication. We encourage people to like their pets when we can. We won't release animals during business hours unless they prove that they've paid for their license, a receipt. In situations where there's a dangerous dog or report of a dangerous dog, we will inform people about the correct protocols, but in most of those cases, people instinctively contact the police, especially when it comes to an attack. An animal that's jumped a fence and attacked another dog. We had that happen recently. And unfortunately, we can't always be in the area when something like that happens, and we can't legally go onto somebody's property to take their dog. So we do tell people what the protocol is, and we inform them about the courthouse dangerous dog complaint protocol as well. So there are many things that we do behind the scenes. I remember in 2009 when we first started, and we had a wellness clinic going on at the arena. I think there were 9 dogs in the town pound at that time, and they had all been roaming in a pack. So I think over the years, with approximately 6,000 animals removed from the various communities, and there were 1,892 appointments at the vet clinic, 1,928 including the next 2 trips that we're doing. I think that all of the efforts, the combined efforts, have made a huge impact. So I think now we're seeing lower numbers, but I don't think that would be the case. So, it has been 12 years of very consistent efforts, and of other people in the community as well that help animals and that volunteer to support us.
Thanks, Joanne. I have a quick question. As I sort of just revert back to our strategic plan, and as we push more for regional partnerships with the tri-communities, how are things going with reaching an agreement with the Indian Band and with Air Ronge with a contract similar to ours?
Actually, we are working closely with the Ministry of Northern Municipal Affairs. We just had a meeting with them, and they were really, really pumped about our vision, mission, and basically what the project that we are wanting to go ahead with. We will have to have another meeting. I just submitted a couple of budgets. They want us to do animal control for their area. We are working currently with the ministry, and after we have a commitment of funding and we enter into a contract with them, we want to approach the other communities, the Village of Air Lodge and Urbana, to see if they would like to work on a regional approach.
Excellent. Thanks. Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor.
My concern with dogs that are continually out on the streets there is there any kind of proactive measures going into making sure that these people that are not taking care of their pets are either paying more to get their dog back again, or is there a certain point where the dog is, I guess, taken south? Because some citizens have come to me and their concern is they can't even go for a walk without being in fear of being attacked, whether it's a little dog, big dog, or medium-sized dog. So that kind of stuff I'm looking at, and I'm kind of wondering what we can do to alleviate some of that stress for people.
That's discussed at the bylaws level as well, because many of these pets are owned. So we are limited in our capacity to hold and take an animal, but we do work with people who know of their own pets, and we will set a trap up. In some cases, an animal that has been impounded multiple times because it has roamed and roamed, the owners decided to surrender it because the fees get to be too costly, and the fees do increase, so it's a $50 going fee, then $70, and then $100. So that has been a discouragement in the past, but we're also wondering, because we aren't legally allowed to go onto a property, and often when we go to pick up a roaming dog, they will run home. So we're wondering if there could be something as well with the bylaw, because I know warning can be an issue, but then could it be a step up where the fines wouldn't just be an impoundment fee, but it would be, after a letter to the owner, an increased fee. We will continue to work with trapping these animals. We did set up a trap down by the quarry. Somebody opened the trap, let the dog out, and then threw the trap into the bush. So we're looking more at a strategy where we will work with homeowners that will let us put the trap on their property so it can be monitored, and they can tell us when the animal is actually in the trap, because we don't think that leaving a trap just overnight or in the bush or in an area where it can't be surveyed is a really good idea.
Well, you could set up one at 1728 Lawton Crescent, because I got 2 or 3 dogs a day that go to my yard.
Right, exactly. So if there are people, we've had people call from Lawton Crescent before, and we've gone and set up traps. So that would be definitely something that Kat Willenberg could do. And if she has permission, there would be no problem whatsoever to do that. I'd be proactive in that way.
Councillor Bashar?
Yes, this is probably less directed to you, Joanne, or Nar, but more just as to council as a whole. But it sounds like we need to revisit our approach or relationship, or have administration perhaps do a review of the relationship and the supports back and forth between NAR and the services provided by NAR, as well as our own bylaws and our own bylaw supports that are integrated or should be integrated with NAR in enforcement, because NAR is not, the animal care officer is not a bylaw officer, so I think perhaps some greater exchange or higher flow of information between Northern Animal Rescue and our bylaw department might allow for a bit more ease of enforcement and responsiveness to enforcement when it needs to happen, as well as lending a bit of capacity to the organization so that I think the tracking of things can inherently be a little bit easier within the Town of La Ronge organization than for a mostly volunteer run group. So I think from an administration standpoint, I would love to see if we could offer a little bit more integration and try and find a way to achieve the level of service from this contract that we desire by installing a bit of capacity from our own organization.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. Just for council's reference, and maybe Councilor Abbey, like the Prince Albert SPCA writes blind person tickets on behalf of the city. So they actually have the ability under the bylaw through the city PA as a contractor when they go pick up the animals to write the tickets. So again, some discussion there in terms of delineating where things are going, and they write the tickets on behalf of the city down there, city's out of it.
But I'm looking at the capacity of NAR on its own, it is.
Just I'm saying FYI, that's all.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and that would be a great thing to try and achieve, especially if, you know, all the regional communities get on board. I'm really excited to hear about your work with the Northern District, because I know the province has a bit of money for regional projects, and perhaps this could turn into something really fantastic for the region. And we can lend our leadership to that. Yeah, I'd like to see where we can take this.
Is there any further questions for Joanne online while we have her?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I just have looked through some of the, sorry, John, it's Jordan McPhail, and I'm having a really hard time calling you Joanne because I still know you as Miss Dixon from my grade 1 many years ago.
I got you through that.
It's been a while. One of the questions I have kind of surrounds the report. I did look in the previous reports that Town Council has been given with the same contract that we've had with the Northern Animal Rescue, and I did notice one small thing. On some of the slides we do see not for distribution statistics are considered property of Northern Animal Rescue. Prior approval must be given for use of statistics. And I do weigh that into the contract that we had signed, where part of the duties of the Northern Animal Rescue is to report if requested to the Council of the Town of La Ronge and attend such meetings as may be deemed necessary by the town for the purpose of providing information to Council about an animal control and enforcement within the Town of La Ronge. So I'm assuming, and I might be wrong in my assumption, that the reports given to Council on the quarterly basis and what we receive, due to the fact that anything that, from my understanding, that does not require legal, land or personnel issues is not allowed to be in camera. And from my understanding, if there were people that wanted to have information on, you know, the animal control services that we have contracted out and what value for dollar they're seeing, whether they see that as good, bad, or indifferent, they have the right to that access for information. So the easiest way to boil my question down is the town safe to assume that what we have been provided in our quarterly report would meet your expectation of prior approval due to the legalities that we have at our council tables regarding access to information?
I don't feel like I can answer that question for maybe 6.
Sorry, Joanne, you're just cutting out.
You're breaking out there again.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Is better?
Well, I didn't hear the question. And I don't
Sorry, just try that one more time, Joanne. We're just getting bits and pieces.
It's the pieces on the dog food.
That's just a bit, the whole
Sorry, Joanne, we're still having a hard time getting what you're saying there.
Okay.
There, let's try that now. Try again, Joanne. There.
Sorry. I said I don't feel like the person to be answering the question because I don't do the statistics.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe I can get our administrative team to follow up and get an answer to that for for our records here.
So,
Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Joanne?
No, thank you, Joanne.
Joanne, thank you so much. Sorry for all the technical problems, but we appreciate you sticking it out.
Thank you, Joanne.
yes, I apologize as well, and I also have technical problems out here. I should have known better. I did do the test, I did everything I was supposed to do, but it didn't work. Sorry.
All good, all good. We're patient here, so thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, thanks for the time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Okay, we move into, second last agenda number here is
Yeah.
Councilmember roundtable discussions. The only one on the agenda at this time is support of collecting data for the census. This is just an email that's come through, and it's kind of a timely one because I believe that the deadline is tonight at midnight, actually.
Yes, I need to go home and do my
So,
census.
but I believe that they're also going to be doing extensions. So does anybody have any questions about what this sort of shows as support? I mean, it's a legal document, right, that has to be
Yes.
submitted by everybody, so.
Otherwise, there's like a $500 fine.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just something that we can continually push out, but, I mean, again, it's gonna be 2 weeks before we push this on.
Did anybody else not receive their census?
I got my paper on the door like Monday.
Yeah, I have
Same.
not received
Or Sunday.
anything,
It might
mail
have been
or
Sunday.
on my
I
door.
just got mine.
That's why I'm thinking there's gonna most likely be an extension.
And my kids
I
just
had my
moved
hand
stuff
delivered
down,
to my dog, I mean,
Dog.
go back my dogs. Don't put your hand over the fence.
But I think, of course, supporting the collection of data for the census is important. It gives us
Yes.
the, per capita funding that we see as it goes into a lot of the statistics that we see for, school investment, healthcare investment, mental health investment, and all those good investments that we need for our community to keep pushing forward.
And accurate data as to our population,
Yeah.
right?
It really helps with our planning that we want to undertake, like our economic corridor and our downtown planning. Planners use that data for the basis of everything, so it is critical that we have good data.
Okay, excellent. Is there any other things that any other councilors want to bring to the roundtable at this time? No? Okay, great. So, just need a motion into camera, please.
Wait, the one camera.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
I think I'll leave it for, just do a 2-minute, just so to make sure we can do it when we get off the line, you know?
You know, do we have a link first?
And I forwarded the in-camera PDF there in case anybody needed it. It's also their email.
We need a better seating arrangement in this room.
It would be nice to have a bigger,
We're at that point.
Many are.
What's next here? Can we knock down a wall?
What would be really nice is if council just had a big round kind of table at the front and just
Yeah.
hundreds or
Not taking
observers.
seriously about the dog.
They turn that into an actual 2-floor.
Yeah,
system
not taking it time.
where you can sit.
Yeah, no, I know I'm